Before we start today's episode of the I'm Fine podcast, we want to make sure to thank our partners over at Trio. Are you anxious about the start of a new school year? Maybe you haven't been in school for a while and you're interested in going back, or you're thinking about changing careers. If so, the Trio staff at Governor State University are the perfect people to help you out. Trio can help with the financial aid process and scholarship searches. Trio can provide fee waivers for admissions applications, assist with the admission application process, online tutoring, help with GED referrals, and provide payments for the GED test. Trio provides various avenues for career explorations, as well as resume and interview preparation. If you're ready to take the next step on your educational journey, contact Trio at 708-235-3353 for more information, or visit their website at www.govst.edu/Trio EOC. I also want to drop a plug for our friends over at Elite Impressions and Engraving. Please check them out at Facebook at Elite Impressions and Engraving. Retired E7 from the Army, Tim Allstedt, friend of mine. We were in the same unit together, and he started this out. He does laser etched tumblers, woodworking, and a whole lot more. We're going to start selling these tumblers at all of our events for Project Headspace and Timing. If you're watching this on YouTube, got a tumbler here that he made for us. On one side, it's got our label, and it's all laser etched in, which is super nice. And on the other side, he put, which I think is very appropriate, CEO of this clusterfuck. So I love it very much. He does really great work. Make sure you check him out on Facebook. And I think he's running a special right now until Veterans Day, where if you order anything from his website, $5 of every order goes to Project Headspace and Timing. So again, Elite Impressions and Engraving on Facebook. On today's episode of the I'm Fine podcast, we are going to talk about being freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional about veteran suicide. We're going to talk about the history of suicide among warrior cultures, some of the statistics, including some ones that might surprise you, and why we think veteran suicide is such an issue with our friend and Marine, Connor, and I'm just going to say his last name, Ski.
Welcome to the I'm Fine podcast with your freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional hosts, Eric Peterson and Brad Stozick.
How do you pronounce your last name, dude?
Dude, you're going to put me on the spot right now. Let me try to remember. Chwaszczewski.
How is it?
Chwaszczewski, man.
That's how you pronounce it? I never would have fucked. I was
It
reading this earlier.
Dude, the easiest way I tell everybody all the time, I'd be like, it's Va, and then imagine a chef skiing, you know? And they're
Chwaszczewski.
Chwaszczewski.
All right, that makes it a lot fucking easier.
Yeah.
All right,
just
dude.
don't even look at the letters, dude. Just think Chwaszczewski. Oh, shit.
Dude, it's really good to have you on here, Connor. I really appreciate you being on here to talk about some shit like this, man.
Thanks.
And if you wouldn't mind, would you mind giving us a little bit of an intro as far as like who you are, time in the Marine, shit like that, your time afterwards?
Yeah, dude.
Just down and dirty.
So, like you guys know, Connor, it's just some shit. I was in the Marine Corps. Definitely was not looking like a Marine today. Instead of 15 minutes early, I've kind of changed over to 15 minutes a little past. But yeah, dude, I grew up around here, St. Anne, but I don't know. I just joined the Marine Corps. Dad was a Marine. Told my ass not to go any combat-related MOS, so I was like, well, I'll trick his ass and I'll be a combat engineer, you know? And then bombs are cool, dude, until all the injuries started coming, and then which I didn't like get blown up or nothing, you know. I just say it like that because it makes me sound a whole hell of a lot cooler. But yeah, dude, did some stuff in the Marine Corps. Came back home. Thought it was gonna be this amazing time, you know. I was like, dude, 30 days of leave, but now it's like forever leave, dude.
Right.
Like, I'm sold, man.
Right.
Came back home and it was just not that cool, man. Being home. That was like right out the gate, people were playing my ass. You know, I had like a cousin that was like, oh, dude, you got all this money. Let's hit the bars. When I ran out of money, like people were, everybody was gone. Like, but I was also like, it was like my choice to be around that too, you know? So I can't like blame nobody for ever treating me like that. Like I like you reap what you sow, you know. So
Right.
I was allowing myself to be around that shit. I wanted to be around the party. But yeah, dude, got home. Life was crazy. Didn't like it. Had a bunch of shit happen. Tried to commit suicide. Ended up getting way too drunk and didn't go through with it and passed out and woke up with some cops putting me on the concrete, dude. And
Yep.
then I was on the second floor, got out, and then just started the journey of, you know, recovery, dude. Like really trying to dive into who I am and what's going on with me and trying to fix stuff and, you know, trying to be honest with myself and those around me.
I think that's super important, and I appreciate you having the fucking courage to just come out the gate swinging and like talk about that shit.
Hey, it's what's
You know what
gotta
I'm
be,
saying,
bro?
Yeah, dude. Well, and would you mind talking about like what it was that brought you to that place where you were just like fucking done and checked out? Because we're going to talk. Brad and I both have our own stories for ourselves too, and I know you and I have talked about it a little bit. But would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah, dude. So I, at the time, was not like the greatest of dude. I was like drugging, drinking.
Yep.
Trying to be the superhero in everybody's life.
Right.
But I was nothing but just like a joke, dude, and started realizing that I was a joke. Trying to fight my way out of it. I was trying to like turn my life around. I was with this girl. I was told that I was having a kid. The kid turned out to not be mine. We told my family, told her family, and then all of a sudden, like, I get a phone call and her sister's like, "Hey, it's not your baby," and I'm like, "Damn, she didn't even call me. Like, her sister called me, bro." And then, which cool, dude, because it led me to meet who I'm, you know, or they at least put me down the correct path to be who I am today, and with, you know, my fiance today, which is, you know, the love of my life. But so moral of the story is, kids, like, your first love ain't the only love. Like, it goes on after that,
Right.
but nah, yeah, so found out about the kid not being mine, dude. And then the night before, that was just kind of like the icing on the cake. The real cake was the night before I had this party, dude. And I was like, you know, we were about to sell the house, and I was like, hey, I'll have all my friends come over, you know, we'll have a party. And like nobody showed up, bro. You know, I'm like, damn, like I ain't got no friends, dude. You know, and like everybody was like, yeah, dude, I'll be there, I'm there. And like nothing was happening.
Yeah.
So I just had like this whole $80 bottle of Jack and like 330 racks, and I was like, well, fuck it, like I'm a party, you know?
Right.
And smashed it all, dude. Everything was gone. The beer was still beer left, but the Jack was gone. Woke up the next morning, dude, and yeah, I was just still like started fighting with the girl that at the time about everything, and then I was just kind of like everything was getting tossed in my face. I was thinking about it all, you know. I was like, damn, like I hate my life. I hate being out of the Marine Corps. Like this is never where I wanted to be at, you know. Like I just you know, drugs and that. It was like in that moment, I just finally like had this third person point of view for myself, and I was like, just looking down upon myself. I was like, who the fuck is that guy, you know? And yeah, dude, from there I like just went to nobody was home, my family was all gone. I should have went with them, dude, but family was all gone, and I just went and found a gun, got a 357, dude, and sat in my bedroom for a while. I was on the phone with a couple boys from the Marine Corps. We were like drinking and shit. I got a bottle of Jack. I went to the store, got another bottle of Jack, broke it on the kitchen floor, went back, got another bottle of Jack and more beer, came back to the house, and then was just kind of like, you know, ready to say goodbye to everything. And called my sister, dude, and was like, hey, like, I'm sorry. And she like seen the gun in the phone.
Right.
And so like on my last goodbye, I was just like talking to them, and like so she got me on the phone for a while. She started screaming, and so like then my dad got involved, my sisters and everybody, and then so like my sister was talking to me, and as she was talking to me, my other sister was calling the cops. And then so I was like, I think when I got caught and picked up, I blew like a .38. Like I was just like completely gone, you know, like, and so like I was like in and out of the phone. I'm like in and out of consciousness, you know, like going down and whatnot. And ended up like passing out, and then the cops came. But yeah, dude, it really was just like me. Like obviously I was thinking about shit from the Marine Corps too. Like there was just a lot of it was more Marine Corps. Like that was just kind of like like I said, the icing on the cake. What really made me, twist the knife and decide to pull the trigger. Or at least I was gonna pull the trigger. But yeah, dude. But I mean, a lot of it now that like I'm in therapy and shit, and like finally have been like cracking down on, the layers of trauma of life. And then, like my dad says, just trying to not be a sorry sack, dude. Like I really don't. I got kids and shit. I want to be a good, example for them. So,
what was it that kind of led you over to FAT to do shit with us?
So I was kind of going back down the path again, dude. Like I just was feeling upset, was hating my life, didn't see things going nowhere. Started thinking about like, I went to the trauma services program, and then I was doing like seeing a psychiatrist and whatnot in therapy. And then I just like one day, like I was on Adderall and shit, so I started taking pills again, and like I was drinking again, and like so that was a bad idea. And then finally, like me and my girl, like it started coming over into my relationship again, and I was just like looking in the mirror, and I'm like, damn, dude, like we've been down this road before, like this is not where we want to go.
Right.
So I just was like honest with myself and decided, like somebody was like, hey, there's this group called Lima Charlie, like you should check it out. And then I was like, I think I was thinking about it for like fucking 2 months, man, maybe 3 months. I was like, I'll go. And then finally fucking went in one day. And then, like I said, I think the first time we met, I was like, the whole time I'm sitting there talking, just like word vomiting, like I don't even remember what I was talking about at the meeting, dude. Like I'm just looking at all these dudes, and I'm just like puking through my eyes and mouth, dude, like just fucking telling everybody the story. And the whole time I'm like looking across the room, and I can see Eric, dude, and I'm just like staring at him. I'm like, this is the guy, dude. And he ain't said a word the whole time. I'm like, this is the guy. Like he ain't said shit, but I need to talk to this man. Like this guy's got a lot to say. I could tell. He's over there sitting in silence, but this man can fix, like, I just felt it, dude, in his gaze. Like, I'm like, this guy knows what's up, bro. And then,
dude, I remember, I don't mean to cut you off, but I remember that meeting like it was yesterday, because you came in and you had a lot to say, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I don't even remember, dude.
Dude, because you sat down and like when you started talking, you're around a bunch of guys that you don't know. You just know that we're veterans. And you started fucking talking about all this shit that was on your mind, and it was all significant stuff. And you started bringing things, like I could tell that it was like you were a pressure cooker. You know what I'm saying? And you just needed to let a little bit of fucking steam out.
Yeah,
and you started going. And then after that, I remember because the type of conversation I wanted to have with you was not the type that we would be able to have in 2 minutes at the very end of that support group. So I just like walked up to you. I'm like, hey dude, can we go get a cup of coffee later? And you were like, yes. And then we did, and we sat down. And then the more I got to know you, the more I realized in 2 ways, it's like, because it's self-serving. Like, one, I wanted to work with you and figure out what it was that you needed to work on. But 2, I knew how much benefit you would bring to our organization, because you are such a positive force of a person, man. Yeah, and when you are in that fucking good mood, sending text messages and shit like that, like it's contagious. You know what I mean? And it's a fucking beautiful thing.
Man, I gotta honestly, dude, I gotta give it up. Like, so during my little cliff notes, I really made it seem like that. Like, I got to give it up to my fiance, dude. Honestly, bro.
For sure.
Because, like, yeah, that whole, like, love thing fucked me up. But it, like I said in the beginning, dude, it really, like, led me down this path. Like, before I never really knew how to treat women. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that took growing up. I was around kids. My fiance, Victoria, brought kids into my life, and all I had was my niece and nephew. Like, so it taught me how to be like a kind soul. Like, so, and then she led me down the path of wanting to like really invest my time into everything. But so I was approaching all these situations like, I'm just, fuck, dude. Like, I'm just going to sit through this death by PowerPoint, and it'll be all right, dude.
Right.
Like, I'll get through it. But then I come home, and she'd really want to start talking about this shit. And so like every night we would end up sitting down, and like she was the one that was really like unpack. Like I'm shaking right now, dude, just thinking about it, like all that shit, because like it was really, I mean, there would be nice, bro, to where like I'd be laying in the bathroom, dude, like I'm literally like, but I'd be laying in the bathtub, dude, just like freaking out, you know. And she would be sitting on the outside like talking to me, and I'm like, dude, I can't get through it, like I can't do it this time, you know. Like she's like, we can do it, you know, like, and you just gotta, like, you gotta stop lying to yourself, you know.
Yeah.
To stop lying to others. And so like she, like I said, dude, I really got to give it up to her, because she like made me go down this path of like, I stopped lying to my dad, you know, like, and that, you know, so she was not only like making all of my emotions okay, but she was also like helping me be okay with letting them out, you know. She was like, you know, and it sounds ridiculous, but like, I mean, if anybody's struggling, you know, like, get a woman or a guy or whatever, you float your boat in that pretense, you know, like, get that in your life, because that person showing you love, you know. Like I had this beautiful woman in front of me that I'm like bawling my eyes out, and I'm like, dude, I don't know what's happening with me, I can't control myself, and she just like hold me, bro, and tell me it's okay.
Well, what the fuck does for better or for worse mean, man?
Dude, and that was like, she taught me, you know, and it was amazing, bro.
And you have to, like, those are the parts of the relationship where you really understand what kind of relationship you have.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When you can be there for somebody at their worst, and when you have when the other person is at their absolute worst. In my opinion, it's not like you need to have some fucking magical secret answer. I feel like you just need to be as cool, calm, and collected as you can. And in that calm voice, just say, it's okay. We're going to be all right. We're going to make it through this. And in those moments, you just need somebody. If you're the other person, you just fucking need somebody to tell you that.
Yeah.
Because like you're telling yourself a lot of negative shit, at least when I was in that spot. So I totally fucking get that, dude. But Brad, what about you, man? Because I know we've talked about the issues that we both had and the issue that you had that led to you and I meeting. So do you mind talking about that a little bit and where you were at your absolute worst as far as like suicidal thoughts or anything like that's concerned?
Yeah, I've actually hit 2 lows in my life. Once in the military.
Yep.
Amanda was at school one night, and I was home alone with Gavin, and he was sleeping. And dude, I had enough of it, you know. And I went to
what? Just
all of it, the military, just all of the Marine Corps. I hated being a cook. It was just, I just had enough. And I held a knife to my wrist, and right at that moment, Gavin started crying.
Yeah.
So that was a sign that I needed to hang out a little bit longer. And then when I got out and lost all my vision and stuff, that was also a time when it was just, I didn't adjust as well and as quickly as I'd liked to.
Right.
You know, having one of your senses taken away is a very hard thing to adjust to. So,
not to mention you're on top of like getting out of the Marine Corps. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Yes.
That adjustment is what like crumbled me, bro. So like,
yeah,
I've told Brad this before, man. Like you know, fucking dude, like you are the man, you know,
fucking,
like,
yep.
Because you have gotten over, you know, like fucking mountains,
right,
bro.
Yes.
Mountains.
I try.
Absolutely, dude.
I try, but a lot of it, like you said, you think your fiance. I also think Amanda. You know, if it wasn't for them, I don't think I would be here. If it wasn't for Amanda and the kids,
yep,
I don't think I'd be here.
Yeah. And
I really don't.
So what happened when, like, where was the low after you lost your vision? Like, what happened?
Oh man, I wouldn't get out of bed. I was angry all the time.
Yeah.
Using a little bit more substances than I did before. I mean, that was pretty. I don't think I ever got to a suicidal point.
Okay.
But I got to an understanding of I could go through it. Like I got to the mindset, you know what I mean? Like I never like made a plan or anything, but I did get to the mindset of I'll be okay if I did do that.
Yeah. That's where I was at. Where I was at was I was after all the deployments, and I just started doing the PI shit and I started doing the PI shit because I wanted to be by myself. I didn't want to work with anybody else. I didn't want to be around anybody else. And so I would just work cases, you know, and I would be in an airport like 3 days out of the week. And it started to creep into my head when I would be driving, because I would see like telephone poles and I would say to myself, it would be so easy to hit the wheels just a little bit, hit one of these fucking poles. It would look like an accident. Nobody's gonna, oh no, me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? They're gonna be like, well, it was a fucking accident. And I remember the first time where I had that thought to myself and the hairs started to raise on the back of my neck, like I was fucking legitimately considering this. And then like I had that like snap to reality, like what the fuck is wrong with me? And then I was sitting at home and I have a shadow box behind me and you can see it in the camera. It's a 1911. It's a limited edition Kimber 1911 that I got when I was with the State Department, and it's engraved for diplomatic security, and that's what I was going to use. And I was thinking about it. I was holding it. I was thinking about, okay, well, what's my wife going to do? How's all this stuff? And I'm starting to plan out the future as if I'm planning out my fucking day. Like, well, okay, I'm going to do this. I got to make sure that this is all taken care of. So this goes to my wife and then she'll be a blah, blah, blah. And then I had that moment again where like the hairs on the back of my neck stood up and I'm like, why am I seriously considering this? And you can say all the shit that you want, like, oh, I'm gonna kill myself, you know, when you really fucking mean it.
Yeah.
And it's scary. And you're the only person who knows that fucking fear. But that's a different type of fucking fear.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And when I felt that, that's when I was like, like, I realized that there was a fucking problem for me, you know?
I don't want to blame the military per se, but I feel like there needs to be a better transition. I don't know how it is for the Army, but at least for the Marine Corps, you go to the SEP platoon for a week.
TRS.
Right? Bro. And they're like, this is how you write a resume. And then I got shit for not having a 12-page resume or whatever.
And now them shits need to be like 1 page.
Yeah, a page and like a half. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But seriously though, they're like, this is how you write a resume. This is what you should wear to your interview.
Right.
And like, get a haircut.
Well, I mean, one of the things that I'll say, as far as, especially when it comes to demob, is like when you demob, and again, this is the experience that I went through. You know, you got to sit in front of a bunch of doctors, and they're going to ask you a bunch of fucking questions, and you know that if you tell them what's really wrong, you're going to be sitting in that fucking office while all your boys get out on fucking a pass, leave, whatever, get to go see their families, and you're just sitting there talking about your fucking problems to a doctor. It's like, no, dude, what are you going to say to him? I'm fine. Everything's good. I'm getting out of here. I didn't even realize that I was doing that.
Nice.
Look at us. But like, you're going to say whatever shit you have to say so you can get the fuck out of there and get home to your family.
Yep.
And then they're going to give you, okay, well, in the event you think about hurting yourself, here's a pamphlet. You're like, thanks. Back of the rucksack, bottom of the rucksack, tough box, what the fuck ever, never to be seen again. Yep. You know what I'm saying? And that's a fucking problem, I think.
Yep. And I think the loneliness too of being a veteran.
Oh, dude.
So thank you for saying. I was going to ask if I try to get a common denominator of all three of our experiences, the one thing would be is that right when we were at our worst, the one thing everybody was feeling was fucking alone.
Yeah.
Like, we're alone. I have nobody. I'm by myself. Nobody's going to give a shit if I do this. I don't need to be here. I don't want to fucking be here. I'm done. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's too easy, though, too, to catch yourself. Like, you'll end up catching yourself in this moment where you're like,
right,
I need everybody. And then you're like, people are showing up and you're like, I don't know.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. People are there for you and you're like, okay. You're like, you're just okaying them. You're like, yeah, I'm listening. I hear you. And it's like, so that's like one of those moments where you still have to be honest with yourself too and be able to catch that shit and be like, listen, dude, like this person is here. Or if you're not trying to listen to somebody, you need to go to the right people then, and you need to know your people. You know?
Well, it's a window of opportunity that opens up whenever you actually want to talk about that shit, because people, I think, especially like veterans, we don't just want to talk about it. We have to be in that certain mindset where we're ready to talk about it. And when a veteran reaches out because they're thinking about killing themselves, or whatever, like in that moment, you have to try to stop everything that you're doing as the listener
Yep.
and become receptive to that person. Like, whoa, what's going on? Because the second you try to brush it off because they're a veteran with like maybe an alpha type of mentality or whatever, and you're just like, oh, they're fucking fine, you'll be all right, just go sleep it off, whatever. It's like, motherfucker, you might not see them again. You don't understand. Not only that, they might not ever talk about it again because the one time they did, you shot them down, you brushed them off, you didn't take them serious. So they're like, you know what? I didn't want to talk about this shit in the first fucking place. I'm sure as hell not going to talk about it again now, knowing that this is how you received me sharing the most vulnerable shit about my life.
Dude.
You know what I'm saying?
That was like, are you about to say something, Brandon?
I was going to, but I was going to say that's why I think all counselors should be, like veteran counselors should be veterans. Dude. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but whenever you can get in a room, I'll use Connor for example, right? I've never met the dude. Instantly starts talking shit over the text, right?
Yep.
We meet each other in person, hug it out, right? And that's what I'm saying. Like veterans understand and we connect with each other. And I know you've told me multiple times where you get a group of veterans, never met each other, and 20 minutes later, everyone's sharing their stories. They're talking to each other. So I think counselors should be veterans for veterans.
Especially depending on the situation that person is going through. And I say that because my current therapist is not a veteran, but for what I needed, she fills that role because I just needed somebody from the outside to give me that educational perspective. I think because I have so much interaction with veterans all the time that it's not like I needed somebody to understand exactly what I was going through. What I needed was I wanted to talk about all the processes in my mind for how I'm like navigating through all of my thoughts. And I needed a professional to tell me like, okay, no, this is a good thing that you're doing. This is healthy. This is not healthy. And then just giving me the tools. But I definitely think, especially towards the beginning when you're first getting into like therapy, I think trust is everything, relationship is everything. So to have somebody that is a veteran would really help that person that's really that veteran looking for help, that's like super standoffish about it. You know what I mean? They don't really want to get help, but they're thinking about getting help. Well, if they have a veteran therapist, they're probably more likely to open up than if it wasn't. So I definitely agree with that. What were you going to say, Connor?
We need to become fat tour guides, bro. That's what we need to be, tour guides. So we need to be tour guides through this process, dude, because that's exactly it, right? So based off this whole thing, right? Like everybody's really talking about, and I agree, is like vets do need to be in this process, man. You know, like, but I will say the one thing that like really changed my life and like really has helped out, and I think that's why like everybody always comments on it, and I'm not trying to be cocky or anything, but like that's why people comment on my personality, right? Like, dude, the one thing that I really try to change, and you can ask all of my friends, all my dudes, like all my boys, I will always, dude, I don't give a fuck who you are, I will always tell you I love you. I will flat out say that shit. I will say I love you, bro. I you know. And so what I really started doing, right, there's like this whole thing about how guys can't have emotions and whatnot. Dude, hey, my girl taught me emotions 100%. My kids taught me emotions 100%. The world taught me that emotions weren't cool. At the end of the day, like that's just social media, bro. Like emotions are real. Like men, like we got that shit, right? And the reason that we're hiding is because we're like embarrassed to show that shit, right? Dude. And so I just started telling everybody, hey, dude, I love you. And I'm cool with it, dude. You want to get emotional, bro? Like I'm there. Like let's jump into it. You know, like you want to dive, you want to cry, whatever you feel, let's do it, dude. And I don't give a fuck who you are, where we're at, like whatever's going on. And like I'm always asking my friends, like, hey, dude, how you feeling? You know, or like I'm always talking about my feelings, because once you start talking about your feelings and like you put your vulnerabilities out there, dude, like other people flow to that. You know, and they're like, oh, this, you know. And especially, and now this is the hard part, is that everybody's like also very visual people. This is why Brad's such a beautiful person.
I was gonna say not everybody.
I was like, this is why Brad's such a beautiful person, because he truly is like the epitome of like, you cannot judge a character by the outside. Like you have to see who they are on the inside, right? And so like it's crazy because a lot of people like they got these superficial like fucking, you know, whatever you want to call it. I was trying to go like big words with it, but you know, I caught my ass halfway through. Like, but like they got these these facets or whatever, like these things that they're like, you know, oh, they look amazing, you know, and the people walk up and be like, oh, you're a good looking dude, right? So like Eric be like, oh, Eric's beautiful. Oh, his, you know, he's got this voice that sits there and calms you down, you know, and you're like, all right, like now I want to open up to the guy, you know. But in reality, dude, like all you gotta do is just walk up to the right people, because like I've had people like, you know, everybody's like, oh, that guy's a gangbanger, you know. But I like some of my closest friends, you know, people consider them gangbangers. I'm like, no, like these people have my back, bro. You know, like, and so once you really just start breaking that boundary with people, dude, and you're like, hey man, like I'm not doing good today, or you just like let everybody know, like, hey man, I'm kind of struggling, but now you can't take advantage of it. You need to actually be making the moves to where you're growing and you're doing well, you know, and you can't just be sitting there like, you know, like what was happening. You're like, hey, I'm not your 24/7 hotline. You know, like I'm not just trying to sit here. I'll be your tour guide, but I'm not going to be the dude leading the pack. You know, like this is your pack to lead. You know, like I'm just trying to give you the food. Like I'll give you the nutrients that your guys need to refuel so you can keep leading the push. But like that's all I am. I'm just throwing snacks. I'm not, you know, pulling the rope, dog. You know, like. And so you just kind of lead these guys into the motion. And you let them know, like, hey man, you know, it's cool. Like I'm fucking hurting too. And then people flow out with that, and it just starts. It you know, it allows everybody else to be like, hey, this is real, you know, because that was my biggest thing talking to all you guys is like, you know, the more I started talking, the more I started realizing, and that's why I talk so much is because the more I started talking about what was going on, the more I started realizing that everybody's feeling this shit.
Yep.
And nobody, you know, it's just like when you're in school, you know, there's no stupid question to ask. There's no stupid thing to say, bro. Like there's nothing dumb that you want to kill yourself. Let's fix it. I'm not gonna be mad about it. You know, you wanna hurt somebody else. I'm a little twisted about it, but like let's figure it out because I know who you are, and I promise that that's not really what you want to do. You're just upset about some shit and you don't know how to process it.
Regardless of your fucking background, whether you're a gangbanger, a veteran, fucking whatever, I think that people gravitate toward authenticity. And if like that's who the fuck you are and you are open about it, or like when it comes to talking about how the fuck you're feeling, like I think part of the reason why people gravitate towards that is because you're like, this person's being authentic. So like I've said it multiple times before. The whole reason why I started fucking Project Headspace and Timing was because a dude I was a medic to in Baghdad posted up on February 22nd, 2017, that he made one of those blanket posts about, if you want to hurt yourself or if you're thinking about killing yourself, call somebody, talk to somebody, you know, nobody needs to suffer in silence. And then he fucking killed himself the next day. And when that happened, the only way I can explain it is that something just snapped in my brain where I was like, I'm fucking done. And not I'm done in a way where I wanted to kill myself. I meant I'm done in a way where I don't want to live this disingenuous life anymore. And I don't want to make it seem like everything was so terrible in my life. I just felt like I never felt like I could really talk about what I was feeling. I never felt like I could show emotions, like Connor was saying. I felt like I had to hide it all. And then and his name was John Kemper. And Kemper was literally the most positive fucking dude that I ever met in my entire life. And so at that point, I was like, I'm fucking done. I'm going to talk about whatever the fuck I want to talk about. I'm going to feel however I want to feel. And I'm going to talk about it. And if it makes people feel awkward, that's too fucking bad. Like, I don't give a shit if I cry, if I get mad, if whatever. Like, I'm going to talk it through as long as I'm not trying to hurt anybody, which I never am. But I'm like done acting like I'm fine when I'm not. I'm fucking done. I'm done. And that snapped in my head. And just like Connor said, as soon as you start talking about that type of shit, other people start talking to you about it too, because they're like, yeah, I'm feeling the same fucking way, because they didn't know that it was safe. They didn't know that they could talk about it, and you just open the fucking door and let them know, no, it's okay. Because why? Because you're showing them that they're not fucking alone either.
Yeah,
they're not alone in those feelings. And then the second thing that I was going to say, which I think I might have lost. Hold on a second. The thought's up there and I just gotta grab it.
Reach for the sky.
Okay, I got it. What you talked about being the tour guides. So I've brought this up before, I think, on this podcast, but the way that I break it down is through Netflix. So Netflix formed in 1999. Okay, and they started by sending DVDs to your house. They had 5,000 titles, and with 5,000 titles, they realized that if they wanted to make money as a business, they needed to create an algorithm to help you, the consumer, go through these 5,000 titles to figure out what it was you needed. Because 5,000 titles is a lot of shit. What are you going to do? You're going to sit there and you go through every single one? Like, that's not, from a business perspective, it's not going to help them. So they created this algorithm. And ever since they created that algorithm, it's obviously been very, very successful for them. And they started that way back in 2000 when they were mailing shit to your house. So when you look at like veteran nonprofits and shit, there's 46,000, according to GuideStar.org, 46,000 nonprofits outside of the fucking VA. Out of all the resources there are to get help, how many are there? There had, what, 100,000? Like, what are you supposed to do? Like, if you need help, where do you fucking go? Where do you start? How do you start? It's intimidating. You're standing at the fucking base of fucking
the fucking pyramids,
yeah,
bro.
dude.
The pyramids. You don't
Yep.
understand why this bitch points true north. You don't understand any of the like the aliens that
Like, what
put
am I
this
supposed to do?
motherfucker together, dude.
Right.
All you know is that somebody said, hey, when you get out, you need to call this number and you need to go to this appointment. You need to make sure that you're okay. And when they ask you questions, now mind you, when you join the Marine Corps, they sat there and they said, hey, did you ever smoke weed? And the recruiter said, shut the fuck up. So you're sitting there and you're like, wait, dude, is this gun loaded or is it not? Like, am I feeling the bit? Nah, dude. Do I need? Nah, like,
right.
Is the alcohol? Nah, dude, I think it is. You're
Right.
like, fuck, dude, and it keeps going that way, man. But like, you also got to understand, like, too. I think the biggest thing, like, because you always see everybody like talking about suicide and everything.
Yeah.
They eat like. Everybody wants to jump in and help, but
Right.
and it sucks because you don't want everybody to go through trauma, but like not everybody's really ready to help somebody that's been through trauma
Very
unless
good point.
you've been through trauma,
Yes.
because you really have to understand, like, yo, it's not that that person doesn't want to talk to you, it's not that they don't want to get out there. They just need somebody they want to feel like somebody wants to fight for them to be here because they've given up the fight on themselves,
dude.
like they want to feel like there's a reason that somebody needs them to stick around, because if they didn't feel like, if they were feeling that before, then they wouldn't have the gun to their fucking head, or they wouldn't be trying to jump off. Like, so there was this vet, right, that was like, hey, this vet's too drunk. He's in the group chat, and like we got to talk. Like, he's all right. Like, being in that dude's mindset, that veteran's mindset now, like, it's gonna sit here and he's gonna be embarrassed, bro. Like,
Right.
tell me y'all ain't never woke up hungover before and been like, fuck, dude, what I do last night.
Yeah.
Now imagine being drunk and explaining your feelings and now waking up confused, you blacked out, like, fuck yeah, you're gonna want to kill yourself. You're embarrassed as shit now. Like, so you like, and that's not what it's, so you sitting there being a therapist being like, you shouldn't drink and you shouldn't do this and bad you're like, well, thanks, I'm also fucking feeling real embarrassed. Hell yeah, I'm leaving this appointment and fucking off of myself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like, so
yeah.
you also like, it's crazy because it's not to give grace to the person doing the wrong, right?
Yeah,
It's
you're
to
not
give,
condoning their
yeah,
behaviors.
you're giving grace to their fucking their soft spot, bro. Like, you need to reach them in some sort of way, and the only other emotion that's as strong as anger is fucking sadness,
Right.
and those two go hand in hand, bro. And so you're not going to win a battle with anger. Might as well make that motherfucker cry and try to, and let him know while he's crying, it's okay to cry, bro. It's okay to be feeling like this. What's not okay is to be waking up tomorrow being that sorry sack and being like, well, I'll just grab the bottle again and, it'll be better today.
Right.
It won't be better today. And I keep talking about the bottle, but I'm talking about with everything, bro.
Yes.
The pills, the joint, I mean, I'm a fucking avid smoker,
Mhm.
but like, I'll tell you right now, like, it's still my crutch.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I was just shaking a little bit, literally, like, just the thought of me going back down my path, right? Like, I haven't smoked today, right? Or I smoked when I woke up at 6 a.m. Like, but so like, it's out of my system. Like, I'm chilling, I haven't been taking nothing. Like, so I start talking about it in a second, dude, and I'm already like, my body, like, I can't control it. You know what I'm saying? So like, even that's a crutch at the end of the day, because it, like, in trauma services, the hardest part was they're sitting there telling you, like, hey man, like, you just got to go through it. Like, you got to become numb to this thing. And you're like, well, when I on my path to being numb before, like, that's why I wanted to kill myself, dude. So no, I don't want to go down that path, man.
Right.
Like, but like, you gotta, that's the part of the tour guide, like, and so I guess it kind of, like, the hard part is you see, like, you don't want to just say, like, hey, only veterans should do this, like, or
Right.
you want to open up the door and be like, hey, like, and it also sucks because you don't want to be like, hey, only people that have gone through trauma, but it's, if you were baking a cake, would you want to learn from Gordon Ramsay or would you want to learn from my ass?
Right.
You feel me?
Right. But
So,
but also in those moments that you were talking about earlier, especially the worst ones, one of the most important things that you can show somebody when they're hungover, when they're feeling like shit, when they're regretful, when they're resenting themselves or whatever, is acceptance. And again, that's my opinion. And that's not to say that, again, I'm condoning your shitty behavior. It's just to say, that's not all you are as a person. I still love you as a person, but this is something that we have to figure out together. And I'm always going to love you no matter what. No matter what you fucking do, it's not going to change the fact that I accept you for who you are. And I feel like when you do that, you're giving somebody that pillow to fall on, that little bit of grace. Like you said, they're just like, that at least you know that you're still accepted. And I need to work on these things. They don't want me, they're not telling me it's okay to do what I'm doing, like that veteran that you're talking about. We've been working with this veteran for a while, and that veteran reached out to me recently. And long story short, we've been working with this veteran for a better part of a year, who was dealing with some alcohol issues and other things. And, excuse me. And he messaged me the other day and he said, for the first time, I know I'm going to be okay. And I called him immediately because he texted me that. I fucking called him. I'm like, yo, talk to me about what you're feeling right now, dude. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, dude, let's talk about that. And I'll talk to you.
I don't want to be here just for the lows, bro.
Yeah,
I want to be here for the highs.
Fuck yeah. I want to celebrate your highs too. So I'm like, okay, tell me what's going through your head right now. And he's just like, I'm starting to understand. I'm starting to accept. I'm starting to feel like, it still sucks. And that's super important, because I don't feel like you should be telling yourself mentally, like, everything's going to be great. Like, nah, like, it's still going to fucking suck. But that the love that you have for yourself and for others is greater than the fear that you have. And I think that is super important. And when you get over that hump, then you're like, okay, I still have things to work on. I still have a lot of shit that I need to do and get in order, but I will make it through this. And that's a testament to all of the people that we've had surrounding that veteran that have just been there for him, because he'd reach out to us. He'd been drinking, been doing this, that, and the other. And we're all talking to each other like, hey man, I'm getting a little worn out talking to this guy because he's been going through it for so long. So we were taking turns, making sure everybody's reaching out to him and talking to him. And we had to let him know that we accepted him. We weren't condoning his behaviors, but we still accept him, and he has to try to be better for himself.
Look at what it did to him. Look at where he's at. And he's doing amazing. Like, and the dude, pain's universal, bro.
Yes.
It's kind of just like when you get out of surgery, right? And you take that painkiller. When I got out of back surgery, dude, I took that painkiller. I was like, I'm good. I go back to work. Yeah. But you can't. Right. It's the same way with like a trauma scar. Right. It's even though you might sit here, and it's the same way with a crutch and smoking weed and drinking and doing all that. Yes. You're feeling good, but there's still an injury under there. Yeah. And so the sooner that everybody realizes that, it's not, for dudes, it's not pussyfooting, and for women, you're not sitting there and you're not being weak. You're not being, the stereotypical woman, like, you're hurting. Right. And that's the process. It's part of the process. And that was my problem, is I was hiding from the hurt. The longer you run, the harder you're going to fall at the end, right. If you're running the opposite way, like, you're going to have to run twice as hard to get that way, bro. Right. So turn around and fucking go the right path.
Yep. Like that. Brad, were you going to say something?
No, that was legit.
So we are 45 minutes in. We haven't talked about any of the things that we initially written down. I'm just going to fly through the history part.
Yeah, this is
statistics. Are you cool with that?
Yeah, this is a pretty solid. I like what's going on here.
I just wanted to bring up briefly, like, from a historical perspective, the relationship between suicide and like the warrior mindset, the warrior mentality. So I want to bring up a couple of things that I found here. As far as like the war on suicide, as far as how it's perceived negatively, that really started in the 5th century by St. Augustine, who clarified suicide as a sin within the city of God. And so began that Christian war on suicide. Increasingly, suicide became socially and morally aberrant. Attempted suicides would be excommunicated from the church, while successful cases were refused Christian burial on consecrated ground. They would be dragged through the streets, buried at crossroads to torment their souls, and have bequeathments and estates confiscated. So that's kind of where that turned around. As far as like famous times in history where like somebody of note, I guess you would say, killed himself. Really kind of one of the first ones I found was between the 11th and 12th century. Ajax the Great, he competed with Odysseus for the armor of Achilles.
You familiar about this guy? Ajax
Really?
was the shit, dude. Yeah, I just learned about this guy in philosophy on Tuesday, actually.
All right, go with it. What do you got?
So Ajax, dude, was like the right-hand man, right? To
Yep.
Achilles, dude, right?
Yep.
So Achilles, right? So everybody knows like the story about Achilles. Achilles got dipped in the fucking river of Styx to make
Yep.
sure he's immortal and whatnot, but that's why his Achilles is the only thing, you know, blah, blah.
Right.
So Ajax was like the second hand, right? In the war. Well, so trying to remember the other dude.
Odysseus?
Odysseus. Yeah. So Odysseus, so long story short, Ajax wanted Achilles' armor when he died.
Right.
And so he was like, hey, so Odysseus ended up getting a hold of it instead of Ajax. And so Ajax was like, you know, motherfucker, ripping and roaring, all this other shit, right? And so in his blind rage of fucking fury, this dude's in this pen, this pig pen. And so this guy in his blind rage is like, motherfucker, you know, like I'm the new champion, you know, he's pissed off and shit. And he just starts ripping all over it, dude. And he like slaughters 12 pigs. Well, what's happening in his mind is he's having a fucking his flash, and he's thinking that he's killing his buddies.
Yeah.
So he's thinking that he's killing, you know, like all his boys, his warriors and all this shit, right? So when he finally fucking comes to, dude, and he realizes what he had done, you know, and he's like, oh my God, like, first off, like how could I even, you know, imagine killing my buddies?
Right.
And secondly, like, who am I? You know, like, and he's like, I can't go home like this. And he fucking offed himself, dude.
With a sword, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I'm so glad,
dude,
that you know that
heavy
story,
shit,
dude.
bro.
Yeah. Well, when you go back and look in those old stories, especially like the Iliad and the Odyssey and stuff like that, there's so many like PTSD, all that fucking shit
Dude.
is referenced in those stories, man.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know what I mean? Like they knew about this stuff in the 11th and 12th century. So yes, that was one of them. Another one I found, the first recorded act of seppuku. Seppuku was performed by Minamoto no Yorimasa during the Battle of Uji in 1180. So seppuku was used by warriors in feudal Japan to avoid falling into enemy hands and to attenuate shame and avoid possible torture. And samurai could also be ordered by their daimyo or their feudal lords to carry out seppuku, which is super fucked up. Like if you think you have a fucking bad boss, like back in the day, your boss could tell you kill yourself and you had to fucking do it.
I was about to say,
like,
yeah. But the crazy part is they took that shit in Japan when they would kill themselves. Like, it was honorable, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
that was the only way out.
It was
so
honorable.
how does it go from something honorable, you know, to now everybody's like, how dare you?
That carried over all the way up to World War II as well, because they had the suicide bombers in Pearl Harbor.
Oh yeah.
And
Kamikaze.
And they also had here, it's called the Suicide Cliff, where Japanese soldiers and civilians in World War II would jump off this cliff and commit suicide, instead of being captured by the Americans, because they were told that Americans would rape and pillage and be awful to them.
So it was considered honorable. Yeah. And I found something around World War One. This was from the British Army, an article on time.com. One of the first documented soldiers from the 20th century to commit suicide was Private Walter Joyce in 1914. His suicide note confirmed that he'd taken his own life after returning home and having some issues, PTSD and shit like that. And the note that he read, which gave me chills when I first read it, was, "As I am unable to march, I am no good as a soldier." And that was what he wrote. And that was it. That was World War One. The other thing that I found worth noting, there was an investigation in 2019 that claimed Germany felt many German veterans were ignored and disassociated from society to the point of suicide as a result of the negative public perception of the German military, which developed throughout the 20th century. I never even thought about that. Like, could you imagine being a German soldier like now? And you just show up and you're like, "Hey guys, we're the German army," and everybody's like, "Yeah," and you're like, "No, bro, that's not me. That's not me. That's not me."
Yeah.
I was like old shit. I'm like, we're not like that anymore. You know what I mean? And like that's the whole thing.
I never thought about that.
You know what I mean? And so yeah, if that's your perception and you think you're serving your fucking country and you're doing what your duty is, and everybody associates you with that shit, like I could see how that's gonna just turn into some shit.
Yeah.
And why they would have such high suicide rates too. So As far as some of the statistics, I know you have some and I have some. Do you have some ready, Brad?
Yeah. So I have back all the way to 2016, and this is just specifically speaking of the military.
Yep.
For each branch, I don't know. Do you want? I'll just do 2016, and then 2022 is where it stops. So 2016, the Army had 130 suicides. 130. The Marine Corps had 37, Navy 52, Air Force 61, Space Force not available. So, and then compared to 2000 and they do have 23 numbers for quarter one so far.
I want to know how a Space Force veteran kills themselves, like, because I would imagine that'd be pretty gangster. Just
like open up the door,
go out in space, and then just pull the thing off.
Yep.
Pull the lever, Gronk.
Wrong lever. Why do we even have that lever? Sorry.
It's so fucked up to be talking about that. Hey.
So in 2022, the Army or 2023, the Army was 49. The Marine Corps 14, Navy 14, and Air Force 17.
Okay. Some of the things, like, we always hear about the 22 a day.
Yeah.
Like, we always hear about 22 a day, and then like it fluctuates. Sometimes it's not 22 a day. Sometimes it's 17. Fucking whatever. Okay. Like, the fact of the matter is that it's happening. There's veterans that are killing themselves on a daily basis. And a lot of those numbers, a couple of things about that 22 a day that just kind of pissed me off. Side note, one, that includes anybody that, from as far as I know, and you can check the sources on this, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. When they look at the number of veterans that have killed themselves, they look at anybody that's gone through service, right? Anybody. Does not matter the status of discharge. But when it comes to getting benefits all of a sudden, well, if you have an other than honorable or a dishonorable, they're not going to count that, but they're going to count those numbers into the 22 a day. So when you're talking about from this perspective of the VA, and I'm not trying to talk shit here, but you're talking about working on the 22 a day, but you're not going to deal with the veterans that have other than honorable discharges or dishonorable discharges, but you're including those numbers in the 22 a day, then you can go fuck yourself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because what are you fucking doing then? You're working on just the honorable ones because those are the ones that matter.
Because they look good on paper, bro.
It needs to be a case-by-case basis, right?
Yeah.
We need to look at all and that frustrates me. Also, what frustrates me is, I don't know about you guys, but I have a solid number of guys that I have lost who died doing something super reckless. And while it doesn't necessarily constitute as suicide, I'm like, but does it?
Yo, I was going to bring up all these points before, right?
Yep.
So I got a few points, right? I'm going to say them real quick so that I can listen to them and I don't forget them because I almost forgot them. Right?
Yep.
So ego death, right? Ego suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And then also like, so what we talked about before with so the stereotypical about like not wanting to be around, right? So Germany, but also the VA. So there's multiple ways that people don't want you to be around and whatnot, right?
Right.
But then, damn, what were we just talking about? What were we just talking about right there?
I was talking about the 22 a day, the dishonorable discharges, other than honorable, not counting towards the 22 a day.
You also mentioned about like doing reckless shit should count as suicides.
Thank you.
So there's also like, so now for Brad's case, right, to go back to where in the beginning we were talking about him losing his senses, right? So like you don't have to commit suicide to be dead, right? You know, like you could, you know how like when you walk into a classroom,
I need to sit and think on that
and your
one for a
teachers,
second, but yeah.
And your teachers, you know what I'm saying though? You know, you walk in, your teachers are like, you're present here, but you're not present.
Right.
You know? And that could be, you know, there's people that just give up, dude. And they just wait until the final fucking day, you know? And they don't live a life, man. And they live in this fucking just grudge of like, fuck life. I'm not happy, you know? And that mindset flows over to everybody else around you, right? So it might not just be, you might not be killing yourself, but you're killing those around you in that way, right? And then now there's also talking about that whole stereotype about Germans, right? Like how... You know, that follows you, right? Like they're never gonna be the German army. They'll forever be Nazis. You know what I'm saying?
Fuck.
And that sucks, dude, in a sense. You know, like, and it's the same way like with these guys that go out and they get community care, right? It's like, well, if the hospital is pretty built up and they're like, hey, we get a lot of veterans in here, they're gonna know, like, tell me that all the nearby hospitals around Hines aren't shit. because there's so many people that come in and out all the time. You know what I'm saying? Even the public hospitals, because of that stereotype is like, oh, well, they're on community care, bro. Like we're only going to get paid $50 this time. Like, get this guy out the fucking door, you know? And so like, there's so many different things, like, and that's what's hard about and this is why this conversation will go on for hours, you know? It's not just a minute and a half. Because once you start unpacking this shit, it's kind of like pulling the thread, right? You're pulling the string, and now all the shit I'm saying, like all my teachers have said to me, oh, that's the other topic, philosophy. I'll get back to that.
Okay.
But it's kind of like pulling a thread. And once you start pulling that one thread, you realize that the whole entire sweatshirt's all fucking interlocked, and it just starts unwinding. But you realize the farther you pull, there's just so many more other things that are unpacking, right? Like fucking, you know, what's going on in the environment, what's going on in the community, like all this other shit, right? And so that's why I think that not only should veterans, but and now veterans in every fucking aspect, veterans of the fucking law, veterans of trauma, all that shit, dude. Like whatever you want to fucking deem yourself, right? If everybody can sit here and call themselves a fucking Apache helicopter these days, like everybody can fucking figure out that, like, hey, you want to be a fucking alpha, prove your worth, right? Right. And now I think that like proving your fucking worth, dude. And this is why like stories like Achilles and guys like that, like this shit, it's written in the fucking books, man, right? And in philosophy, dude, Socrates talks about it. I mean, Plato's big fucking thing. Everybody's massive thing about all this shit, dude, is being the better fucking man, you know? And now also women nowadays, too, because, you know, don't be sitting here thinking that women are out of this shit, because everybody can be, you know, I've had women that have sat down, not only could kick my ass, but have also been able to look at me in the fucking eye and be like, God damn, like, you just taught me a lesson, you know? Right. But it's about, dude, like, you know, if you really want to try to figure out what we're doing here, like look in history, bro. Like you think we're the only people asking these fucking questions? You think we're the only people sitting here dealing with suicide and mental health, right? No, we're just in a different time that now have specific labels, and we've had smart people over fucking, you know, millennia to sit here and put titles on it. Like, it's like my teacher just brought up this fact, you know, the Occupy movement or whatever that was going on, right? Like, I don't know what the fuck that is, right? But it just happened recently. You know what I'm saying? Like, so there's so much shit that, like, you know, everybody's just so embedded and drowned out by the current news and all that, dude. Look in the fucking past, you know, and look at these people who have, you know, philosophers are it, bro. Because they have been asking this question, and they, you know, there's people that are going to sit there and tear you down. There's people that are going to sit there and tell you about this side of life and that side of life. And it's not your job to pick what side of life you want to be on. It's your job to form your own fucking version of life and make it what you want it to fucking be based off of everybody else's ideas, because they fucking made it. But they're not living in today's day and age. So we just got to put a new spin on this shit. We got to make the fucking SOPs for what's going on, right? For today, for dealing with this shit today. And that shit's easy, dude. Everybody just simply has to just focus. And it's hard. It's so cliche, dude, you know, to sit here and be like, hey, everybody just needs to focus on being a better person, you know? But that's what schools need to start teaching then. And it's not about being a better person. It's about how you ask yourself how you could be better, you know? Yeah, because it's not like it's not so many people, at least when we were growing up, especially when you think about philosophy and stuff, and people are talking about what the meaning of life is. It's like, that's so subjective. I mean, the meaning of life is to find meaning, is to find your own meaning of your life, right? That's what it has to be about. And like you said, throughout history, if you look, there is no shortage of people that have been through things just like you, way worse than you, made it out and fucking wrote about it. Like the first time we sat down, I think one of the things that I talked to Connor about was one of my favorite stories of Alan Milne. Did I tell you this story? Remember? I don't know. So Alan Milne, World War I, Battle of the Somme, one of the bloodiest battles in human history. British Army, 3 million service members were involved. 1 million were killed or injured, and Alan was one of them. And he came home and he was fucked up, and it messed with his relationships. It messed with everything. And he had a son, and his son's name was Chris. And so he would take his son, Chris, and the only thing that he could find joy doing was taking Chris to the zoo. They would go to the zoo. There was a bear there. They would go see this bear all the time. They liked seeing this bear. And then Alan wrote a story about the bear and his son, Chris.
and he took all of these little pieces, which psychologists and people way smarter than me later said was facets of PTSD, and he put them all in different characters, like a depressed donkey, a neurotic owl, a paranoid pig. Like he fucking wrote Winnie the Pooh, dude. Like he took a hardened combat veteran from one of the bloodiest battles in recorded human history, managed to take his pain and depression and everything and wrote a fucking story that would outlive him and would help children for generations. Like, how insane is that? That's amazing.
And what's great to pull all this shit back around, right to back, like what everybody watching is like, oh, why are we talking about philosophy and being a better person, all this shit? Like,
it's part of it all.
Exactly,
it's
dude.
Fucking part of it.
It is legit part of it, and not only is it part of it, but like you hear everybody sitting here, preaching like, don't worry about what the other people think of you, dude. Let me tell you, that is the hardest fucking thing to ever do.
Oh yeah.
Even the people that you see online, bro, that sit there and tell you, hey man, why do I care? Why do I care what that person thinks? Why do I care about this and that? It's like, well, you might not care, but I'm telling you, somewhere or another, it's gonna fuck with your head, right?
Yeah.
And the best thing, dude, that all of this that I have learned out of everything is that you truly cannot care, like, and that's what breaking walls down about emotions and letting all this shit out, jumping right into talking about suicide, like. Because you have to acknowledge that shit's there, right? And you have to also acknowledge that emotion is there. And those who are going to sit there and judge you about that, they're the ones that are in the wrong. Don't feel stupid for feeling some type of way. Don't feel that you need to run away from it. You need to run away from those people that make you feel that way. Because the ones, I'm telling you, dude, when I got around you guys, like my life just became fucking 120. Like it just took a complete fucking 180, dude. Who I was, how I was acting, all that shit, So if you think that you're the fucking problem, get around some new fucking people, you know, like, because I promise you, dude, there's nothing wrong with being open, understanding your emotion. You want to be that silly motherfucker. Just as much as there's that voice in your head that's sitting there saying that you want to hurt yourself, that devil, there's also that fucking angel in your head that's sitting there saying that, like, hey, you're a good person. You want to get on that stage and dance and act a fool? Fucking do it, dude.
Yeah.
You want to go over there and you want to talk to that girl? Go do it, bro.
Right.
That's how, some little kid walked up in the back room while I was playing slots, and that's how I met my fiance. He just said hi, and then all of a sudden,
shit.
Yeah, dude, and so just all of them little moments, dude.
Yes.
And I bring that up because in that moment, that little man just thought to go say hi to somebody, and he had no fucking idea what it was going to blow up into, And kids, that's how kids are. Kids don't have a fucking filter. They just say shit. They do shit. And
it's authentic.
Every single exactly. Authenticity. Every single fucking time they do something, you see everybody, oh my God, that's so cute, dude, And now you grow up and everybody's sitting there and is like, that motherfucker's crying. Like, oh,
right.
Yep.
Right.
It's the way that we're looking at it, bro.
I also want to drop something on you from something you said earlier. One of my favorite Marcus Aurelius quotes, which is, when you don't care what other people say, that is tranquility. But when you don't care what people think, that is freedom.
It is. I can like I said, I think on the last episode, when I turned 30, I stopped giving a crap about what people think.
And it's not to say you're being rude or inconsiderate. It's just saying
caring about yourself.
I know who I am.
Yeah.
I do not care if you do not like that. I'm not trying to offend you by being who I am, but I'm going to be who I am, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, it feels good.
Yeah.
It feels real good.
Marcus Aurelius, the opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them knows anything about the subject.
God, not only is he sexy, he's smart.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the other one? There's another one that's like,
love Marcus Aurelius,
it's like my fucking favorite, dude. But it talks about damn, I can't find it. But it says little men talk about other people, or some shit. It's like
great men talk about ideas or something.
Yeah, but it was it was more along the lines like little men talk about others, and good men talk about themselves, basically. Getting around to the part that like, hey, little people talk about others. If you're sitting there, and I talk about like gossip and shit, like, yeah, that's a high school thing, but like I really think that like we gotta attack the youth, bro. You know, like we gotta really, you know, just how we gotta get these guys right out of like once they transition out, we gotta get these guys right before they transition into the real world. You know, because this is what, just as much as we're putting them back into the world, you know, like you there's a lot more that we gotta like attack. You know what I'm saying? Like, and fixing. I believe that veterans are the fucking way to go because like, bro, when have you not went to the smoke pit and seen, you know, Billy Bob Bo Baggins with no fucking teeth mixing around over there with fucking, you know, Jorge and Jose and Jamal, you know, and
most diverse group possible.
Everybody's kicking and not giving a fuck. Nobody, you know, Buddy's got the Confederate flag out there and nobody's paying attention to that shit. Everybody accepts one another. Right. Everybody is kicking it, bro. Right. You know, and that's what the fuck I thought I was going to come home to. I thought I came home, bro, and I was like, fucking money, dude, you know. I'm the Marine, not a Marine anymore. I'm a Marine, dude. Everybody's going to fucking love me. We're all going to be family. I'm going to hang out with the community. I get home, bro, and it's like, you don't want to walk down that street. You don't want to go over there, dude. Right. You don't want to do this. And it's like, bro, how the fuck were we able to, we put down the guns, you know, we were out there shooting the shit with, you know, we were shooting at motherfuckers and they come back and we could just shoot the shit with each other. Like, you know, those were issues, you know, we had real issues. Right. I mean, we were popping fucking rounds and doing real shit, you know. Y'all are bitching about who stepped on your fucking kicks and, you know, hey, you got the goods, man. Like,
well, I mean, you've seen that meme, right? Where it's like it's got a picture of a dude wearing a cowboy hat and like a gangbanger and like some Hispanic dude wearing another cowboy hat and then like two people that are dressed in like conventional, I don't know, normal type of attire, and it's just like hanging out with your military friends outside of the military. Yeah. It's just like the most fucking diverse group. It's like, that's exactly what the fuck it is. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But, okay, a couple other statistics I wanted to run by you that I found. So again, 22 a day, we all know about that one. But here's some ones that I find to be specifically problematic. So one, the amount of veterans that have killed themselves on fucking VA property. So this is ridiculous to me. So many veterans were killing, like you'll hear every once in a while a story about a veteran that killed themselves on a VA campus. And you're like, oh, that's fucked up. That's crazy. It happens more often than you think. There's pictures of VAs that have like fences and guards around their parking garages and shit because they wanted to put those in there to keep veterans from like wanting to jump off, which is insane that had to exist. And the issue is so bad that the Governmental Accountability Office, and you can see this at gao.gov, they did a study from October of 2017 to April of 2019, and they found that 49 veterans had killed themselves on VA campuses during that time. Like, that is a fuck you. Like, that is a veteran that is dealing with some shit, and that's like, I want you to know my pain. The only way for me to make sure you get this fucking message is if I do it in your fucking parking lot, which is crazy.
I've thought about that. So like, because I, you know, and not to bag on the VA, you know, right. My biggest lesson has been like, it's not the people who are working the VA, it's the ones that are writing the laws for the VA, you know? So like,
that's a big part of it.
And so it sucks, you know, because these people that are there like really care, you know, like I've ran it, like I got a nurse, dude, that I can just call up, no fucking rhyme or reason, crying, and she'll fucking, she's a nurse, dude, and she somehow just find a way to fucking call me back within the next 5 or just talk to me right then and there about shit that's happening, you know, like,
that's great.
But I've also like had doctors that are sitting there making me depressed, and like, you know, I had a doc tell me I had I had herpes, syphilis, and hepatitis B, C, all like straight up. They said that, hey, your results came back, like you need to come in, you're positive, and I'm like, right. I'm like sitting there, you know, and they're like, but it was a nurse that called me. She's like, but I can't be doing this. So, or she said some shit like that. She's like, so we gotta, you know, I like the doctor will call you. Well, like months go by and nobody's calling me, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna kill my fucking self. Like, right. And the VA's causing it. I'm not getting appointments. I'm not doing this. I can't get in, you know, and like, so you're just blaming them, dude. And literally, all I could think about is like, I'm just gonna write all over my. This is one of my plans that I had. Yeah. I was gonna write all over myself. Right, like my appointment dates. I was gonna like straight up, dude. Shit. So like I was gonna staple like my fucking like my letters from the VA to my body and shit. Like I literally, bro, had this fucking plan, dude. I was gonna write all that shit. I was gonna write doctors' names. I was just gonna fucking just do everything I had on the VA. Like I was gonna put on me, and I was just gonna walk right to the fucking front door and just boom, go. Like I was ready for it, dude, just because like I hated the fucking VA, dude. They took my physical therapy from like I could have an hour and a half session to 30 minutes now. Like, so just everything was being taken out from underneath me. And then like there's like all that shit, you know?
Yep.
But so anyways, not fuck the VA. I love the VA, you know, but
it's 50-50, man. Like there's good experiences, bad ones, like you said. And everybody, like, it's easy to rag on the VA. But what I will say is when people talk about wanting like universal health care and stuff like that, I say, look at the VA, okay? Because that's 1% of the fucking population. Yeah. And the government doesn't have a real great handle on it. So how do you think it's going to go any more than that? Because just like you said, my therapist with the VA, awesome. My nurse with the VA, awesome. Like a lot of the other people that I've talked to with the VA, great. But I've also had personally some very bad experiences too. And so, yeah, it's pretty difficult. And I don't try to shit on the VA because I want more veterans to be connected with the VA. I want you to get your benefits. I want you to talk to whoever you need to talk to so you can get the help that you need. But I mean, I definitely understand what you're saying. And the thought of doing that, and again, your plan in comparison to all these other veterans that killed themselves on VA campuses was to send a fucking message. It's to send a message. And if you're going to talk about like 22 a day, blah, 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 49 veterans in less than 2 years fucking did that on VA campuses.
I've heard one story about it.
That's
one, bro.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So, I mean, that was a stat that I wanted to talk about. A couple other ones. This is another one that bothers me a little bit. So this is back in 2021. At the time of 2021, they looked at all of the service members that were killed in Iraq and Afghanistan in combat. So for about 20 years since we were in Iraq and Afghanistan. And that was 7,057 service members that were killed in combat in 20 years. They looked at the number of active duty personnel and veterans who served in the military after 9/11 that died by suicide. What do you think that number was in comparison to the 7,057 that died in combat?
I think I would guess it was up 3%.
Up 3%. Okay. Mm-hmm. Any guesses, Connor? You want to guess?
I'd say it's about around 10,000.
So 30,177 active duty personnel and veterans died by suicide
once they came home. And that's the word they don't talk about, bro. That right there.
30,000 in compared to the 7,000 that were killed in combat. Over 3 times as many veterans had killed themselves than died in Operation Enduring Freedom or Operation Iraqi Freedom,
bro. Over 300%. You want to know? You want to know what I want, bro? I want to pull those guys' fucking records. I want their medical record. I want to see how long their wait times were for their appointments. I want to see who they were seeing, where they were going, how many, what their interactions.
A lot of them aren't connected.
Exactly.
I don't have the numbers, but I saw, because I was just looking through so many stats and shit for this episode, but it was like, one of the things that I saw said that a lot of the veterans were not service connected either. You know what I'm saying? But either way, it's like,
even if you try to be, bro, they make it impossible. They make it impossible.
But what are we fucking doing? If 3 times the amount of veterans die here in America than in your fucking war, what the fuck are we doing? Is my question.
We're not giving them the help that they need.
Well, and that brings me to and the last thing I'll say, as far as like a statistic is concerned, and this was on the VA website, non-deployed veterans were at a greater risk for suicide than veterans that have deployed. Now, why do you think?
I wonder why.
But let me tell you, at first I read that and I was like, that's weird. Why the fuck? Why is that the case? But then what I thought about was what you had told me.
I can speak to that.
You think of any veteran that doesn't feel like they did their job.
Yes, dude.
And like, yeah, just like the German army.
Yeah.
They're trying to like get past that fucking pass that didn't have to do with them specifically.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like you thought you were doing your duty, you were serving your country, you were doing this, that, and the other, and you didn't get to do that which you thought would be the validating point of your military service.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I have to imagine that's, you can speak to that, but I have to imagine that's part of it, yeah?
Absolutely.
Or a big part of it?
Because civilians don't get it. They're like, oh, you were just a cook? I'm like, haha, thanks for your service, but like, dude, you were a glorified lunch lady. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah.
That's how you perceive yourself. That's not how we perceive you, but that's how you perceived yourself. Yes.
At the time, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So when it comes to all that kind of shit and you just think about it, especially, and I couldn't find the studies for this. I read two different articles. I read one article that said combat veterans were more likely to die by suicide than non-combat. And then I read that non-combat veterans were more likely to die by suicide than combat. And either way, what it comes down to is when you join the military, I don't care if it's the Marines, Army, fucking Space Force, whatever. And while I can't speak to any of the other branches other than the Army, I went to Fort Benning, Georgia, home of the infantry. And what's their goal in boot camp? It's to fucking break you. And it's to make you okay with war, which means you have to be okay with death. You have to be okay seeing it. You have to be okay doing it. And it, more or less, in my opinion, it's turning you into an animal of some kind.
Yeah.
Okay? And then you have to come back to this world where being an animal is not tolerated.
Dude.
And nobody teaches you how to close Pandora's box. Because you're like, okay, well, I was taught to act this way. I was taught to live with this fucking mindset of kill or be killed. And then knowing who I can count on and who I can't count on. And then like Connor said, then you come home and it's like, this isn't how the world is. The most formative years of my life, the most formative, when I was still trying to figure out who I was as a man, as a person, as a fucking whatever. And I was taught to be okay with war. And then I come home and that's not how it fucking goes. That's not accepted. And so immediately you feel alone. Immediately you feel like nobody gets it. Nobody understands. What the fuck am I supposed to do? Who am I supposed to fucking talk to? I can't walk down the fucking to the next door right down the hall and talk to my fucking boy about what I'm feeling and how I'm doing because they're not there. It's some neighbor that doesn't fucking talk to me ever. So I'm like, what am I supposed to fucking do? And I think that is at the foundation of the fucking problem because people are like, oh, it's so crazy that non-combat veterans kill themselves more than combat or guys that didn't deploy than guys that did. So what's the common denominator? The common denominator is that a majority of these people were taken, again, during the most formative years of their life, taught to be okay with everything about war. And then the demob is, are you okay? Are you drinking? How many drinks do you have a night?
Yeah.
You thinking about hurting anybody? And then that's fucking it. It's like, okay, I guess I'm ready to go back to fucking society now.
Yep.
And I think as long as that's a problem, as long as that happens, there's always going to be a problem. Because like I've said before, again, in my opinion, what we need to be doing with these guys that are getting out or that are coming back from, that are demobbing from a deployment, anything like that, is they need to spend some time with some veterans that have been out for a couple of years. Dude. And they need to go and fuck off into the woods for like a week and just camp, hike, bike, fish. I don't give a fuck. Whatever they want to do. No PowerPoints, none of that bullshit. And just talk to some other guys. So these other guys can be like, hey, man, bro. I was here where you're at. I know what you're feeling right now. You have this confidence. I'm not going to call it arrogance. You have a confidence because of your experiences so far. You've always been surrounded by this brotherhood, this sisterhood, and you felt the love. You felt, and I know individual experiences may vary in the military, but that's my experience. It's like I had that brotherhood. I had that camaraderie. And you feel like when you get home, it's going to be the same. It might not be the same. And we need to talk about that because you're going to go and talk to some doctors for the VA and you might not want to say what the fuck you're thinking, but you need to. And this is why. This is my life story. This is what I went through. This is what my people went through. Have spouses of veterans come in one day like, hey, you need to make sure that you're taking care of your spouse too, because this is how my husband, my wife, my whoever treated me when they came home. This is how it affected our relationship. Don't do the same. Like, you need to do shit like that, not expect to just do fucking PowerPoints and it's going to fix them. You know what I'm saying?
Build a rapport. There's literally a statistic that shows when kids go to college, they are more likely to stay around and finish college if they create a social connection there. So like if they have a link connection to a teacher or something, or they feel like there's somebody that they want to impress or make proud, you know, like they will be more obliged and they're more likely, it's proven they're more likely to stay. I found that quote though. It's by Lao Tzu. It's a great man is hard on himself. A small man is hard on others. Right?
Yes, that's a great one.
Dude. And so like to go back to all this stuff, like I feel both sides of the spectrum, right? Like, and not to say because wasn't like classified as combat, right? Like what we did in the Philippines and everything. But like what's even worse, right? So like this will break into like I'll be in like my embarrassment stage too, because I know like if anybody from the Marine Corps will ever see like. because there was a time, dude, when I got to the Marine Corps, like right out the gate. Now they tell you all the time, like, hey man, you should sign up for this, sign up for everything. You know, you'll do the right thing. Like sign up for everything, apply. You know, volunteer. You know, like you'll look good and they'll want to do it. You know, so here comes fucking Boot Ski. You know, all fucking motarded out. Like, you know, they're like, I need a volunteer. Fucking boom, I'm first hand up, and he's like, company office. You know, and I'm like, fuck me, dude. Like I just got to the fucking fleet. I'm trying to prove my fucking worth, bro. I'm trying to be a fucking, you know, a hard charger, leader, all this shit, right? Also, everybody kind of remembers me as the fucking company office, but nobody remembers me being out on the fucking field ops with them, you know? And it's like, hey, bro, like I was right along. I got the footage, dog. Like I was the motherfucker that shot the rocket in the video all y'all laugh at, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody's got this shit, like, you know, but they forget about that shit, you know, and everybody will have this specific view on you, dude. But it's like, it's not about that, right? Like it's not about any of that. Like, and I've realized that is that the real and you know, a small man will be hard on others. Like, and it's real like that. Like somebody who is gonna degrade you and make you feel worse about yourself. Like, bro, I you know, Eric's been a lot of my boy. I mean, Paul Kudak, rest in peace, dude. He just committed suicide last year. Like, he was my realtor, dude. Like my realtor. And this is what I'm talking about. This is how crazy it happens, right? My realtor, who I just met, did it, dude. You know, just sold me a house. But I felt so strongly connected to this motherfucker, man. But like that's it all just happened so fucking quickly, dude. I completely forgot thinking about that now. Like I just had that dude's face in my head, and now I forgot my fucking whole tangent. But
well, one of the things that I'll go off of on what you said earlier about the veteran population and like why it needs to be us that are like the tip of the spear is because we, and I've said this a billion fucking times, are the most diverse group of people underneath one fucking label. So if you want to look at, for example, trauma medicine in the States has been affected by the wars. Like whenever something happens in war, they see how these GIs and shit are dying, and then they take that and they change it in the civilian world so we can make sure that we're getting ahead of it in the civilian world. Like mental health should be the same way. Look at the veteran population. It's an insanely diverse group, and you can get a pretty good gauge for what's working, what's not working by what you're doing within the veteran population. And you see these new types of studies as far as beneficial holistic types of therapy, whether it's equine therapy or hallucinogenics, psychedelics rather, or anything like that. Like they do it with the veteran population first. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So yes, I agree. And now you're seeing a lot of veterans come out and talking about this stuff, which is great. A lot of like the special operations guys. And it's hard being a veteran because again, individual experiences may vary. And so you're constantly going to be like trying to validate your own fucking service regardless of what you did, because you're constantly seeing these Navy SEALs and fucking Force Recon dudes on TV and on the podcast. And you're like, fuck, I didn't do any of that shit, man. I was a grunt doing little baby grunt shit. I was infantry. I didn't do any cool, none of that shit. And so I always felt like I had to validate my own service because I didn't feel like I did enough. And that's not fair to you either. And Dave Allen, Marine Corps League here in town, fucking amazing dude. Like he was one of the first guys that came up to me and he was asking me about my time in service. And I didn't pull a trigger, which I'm very fucking thankful for. We got blown up. I hit an ID. We got mortared. But my sector of fire was never, whenever I was on a gun, my sector of fire was never where the combat was coming from. So you can't just, it's not like the movies where every vehicle like traverses over to where the combat's coming from. It's like, motherfucker, if you're taking combat from the east and your sector's on the west, you have to keep your shit on the west in case something else fucking happens, right? So I'm just sitting there on a fucking 50, just like, like, why can't I do that? Like, I want to do that. And so I never got to like do any of that stuff. And I was talking to Dave Allen about it, and he's an older guy, and he was just like, you served your fucking country, man. He's like, you did your job. You did your job. You can't make yourself feel bad for doing your job. And that's what I've told Brad the same thing. Tell anybody the same thing. It's like, you can't fucking guilt yourself, especially for some things that were outside of your control. You know what I'm saying? Like, you did what the fuck you wanted. You did what you signed up for. You did what was asked of you, rather. I should say that. And that's what the government needed from you. The government needed you to do that, and that's what you fucking did.
And now I can make some bomb-ass potatoes.
See? Shit, yeah, baby.
But yeah, so other than that, I mean,
The crazy part is everybody that's ever pulled the trigger that I've talked to, you know,
Yeah.
that had the chance. Even this guy Adams that I know, who was fuck, dude, the bloodiest battle of Afghanistan. I think it starts with an S. It's not fucking.
it was like Southern was it in Helmand?
No, it started with an S, dude. Something, but anyway, so he like one of the bloodiest battles out there, right? And this motherfucker, like in my eyes, dude, I would see this guy, and I was like, this is the guy, you know, like this is my fucking Medal of Honor, you know what I'm saying? Like this is, you know, I'm looking up to this guy. But all these motherfuckers that have ever been through it, dude, they all sit there and say the same thing, that they wouldn't have wished it on anybody else.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's such a double-edged sword, dude. Because every motherfucker is running towards the chaos.
Right.
You know, and they want it until they get out of it. And it's like the select few that do make it through, you can see it in their eyes for the rest of their life. And then obviously we all know what happens to the ones that don't.
Yeah, and there's the ones that's why I'm usually kind of skeptical when I meet a veteran, and right, wrong, or indifferent, that's like super jazzed about fucking killing people or whatever. I'm like, maybe. Like, and I know that that stereotype exists in like TV shows and movies and shit.
Like the 0.5%, you know, that right. They're out there, but they're rare. That's a unicorn, bro. That motherfucker is seriously crazy, and you do not want to be around him for long.
But most of the guys, so when I contracted, I was very, like, I got to work with some of those top tier operators, and I only qualified because I had combat experience and a medic degree, and that was the only reason why I got to be with these guys. But like a lot of the DDMs, so like the snipers that were like force recon or whatever the fuck they were in the Marines, the ones that had the highest body counts, they didn't fucking talk about it.
Yeah,
maybe if we were sitting around the fire one night and like smoking and joking and stories are going, maybe they'll bring something up, but like they're not leaning into it very much. Like they're very, like they don't want to talk about it. And I've never one to fucking push about stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I met a lot of those guys, and I knew that they had some fucking body counts. And then, so you come home and you're at the bar and you hear somebody at the other end of the bar talking about how they fucking did this and that and this and that and killed this insurgent or whatever, and they were on SEAL Team 6, and you're like, fucking, all right, dude, like calm the fuck down, okay? Yeah. You're making us look bad a little bit, okay? You know what I mean? Yeah. Bob the Builder. But yeah, so other than that, I mean, we're at about an hour and a half, boys. Whew. What do you guys think? What do you guys have anything to say? Anything else to say about veteran suicide?
Brad's fucking beautiful.
Stop it.
I have one other thing. The last thing that I will say to anybody that's out there listening, the Veteran Crisis Line. So the Veteran Crisis Line is something that I do recommend if you are a veteran or know a veteran that is in any sort of distress or in any sort of crisis. Dial 988, then press 1. Or, which I like this option too, you can fucking text the veteran crisis line. And I think that's a good fucking idea. It's 838-255. Free, confidential. So you can text 838-255, and you can just text if you don't want to fucking talk about it, which I think is like an easier thing for me. I would more rather text than I would call. So I think that's a very cool thing. And I always want to make sure that I mention that. The last couple of things that I'll say. So this episode will be coming out on Monday, on my birthday. This episode's coming out on my birthday. We have a couple of things coming up. Check out the Clifton Haunted Woods on September 29th and 30th. They're going to be raising some money for Project Headspace and Timing. So bring the family out. It's a really cool event. Even if you have young kids, they do something before the Haunted Woods where they bring all of the people that are dressed up in all the scary shit to come hang out and like talk to all the kids and take the mask off so the kids get to understand that it's okay. I think that's a really good idea. And then I think that's about it. We're going to be at the Farmers Market on October 7th. And I'm sure there's other things that I'm forgetting. But if there are, I'll include them in the fucking link at the bottom. So Brad, Connor, you boys got anything else you want to say?
I fucking love y'all.
Fucking love you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you guys again for being, for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, share this shit. And thank you again for tuning into another episode. We look forward to talking to you next time.